All right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome once again. This is your host, Yvette Bethel, and the topic of this episode of Evolve is a leadership playbook from the cockpit to the boardroom. And with us, we have former Australian fighter pilot and CEO of Afterburner, Christian Boucousis. Is that correct? Did I pronounce
You,
it?
you, you've got it. That's like exceedingly rare of it. Yeah, exactly right.
All right, so Afterburner is a leadership company where Boo has, he prefers to be called Boo.
Don't be
He-
embarrassed. Don't take it the wrong way.
I don't know him, we just met. He has spent 30 years translating fighter pilot precision into the world of modern business and leadership. In his latest book, an Amazon bestseller titled The Afterburner Advantage, he shares how his mindset has helped over 3,500 organizations, including two Super Bowl NFL teams. So, through his work, he has helped them to lead with clarity, alignment, and resilience. Boo is a human behavior specialist, strategist, and inspirational keynote speaker who explores a world beyond high-performing teams and leadership. So, hello, Boo, and welcome to Evolve.
Thank you so much for having me, Yvette. I feel blessed for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, and so am I to have you join us because your perspective is. I've been looking forward to it. So, your leadership approach is shaped obviously by years of flying fighter jets and working with elite teams. What has been or what was the defining moment that made you realize that these principles could revolutionize how leaders lead?
Interesting question. I didn't realize it at the time. And almost 10 years ago, a friend of mine was running a company in Australia called Afterburner. And I just finished building a hotel. I'd set up a company to build uh, large vertical structures using a unique construction methodology that meant that you could build it about 3 times faster. And then once I built the building, I had to wait 3 years for it to mature as an asset. And during that period, I'd heard about this company Afterburner. I didn't know much about it. It was a bunch of fighter pilots working in business. And a friend of mine, I asked him, "Hey, I've been doing business now for 11 years. Do you want some help? I've got nothing to do for the next 3 years." And he just said, "You know what? I'm selling the company. I want to go back and be a fighter pilot again." And he goes, "Do you want to buy it?" And I'm like, "Oh, not really. I'd already just founded my third company. I was ready for a bit of a rest." And I said, "Oh, look, I don't know. I'll come and have a look at one." And they delivered this presentation dressed in a flight suit, talking about how fighter pilots think, how they work, and how we translate those lessons into business. The whole concept was originated by a gentleman called James Murphy 30 years ago. And when I watched the keynote, I kind of had this visceral experience and I saw my world, 11 years as a fighter pilot, being translated into my current world of 11 years in business. And I was like, my goodness, I just didn't even appreciate everything I learned as a fighter pilot was what set me up for success in business. And I just went all in from that moment on. I was like, yeah, I'll buy the company. I came over to the US. I met the founder. I watched them deliver a huge program to 4,000 leaders. And I ended up just acquiring the license to deliver fighter pilot mindset in Australia and Asia. And I did it as a little bit of a side hustle. I moved into publishing. I bought a publishing business, which was a print business, and transformed it into a digital business. And as I finished that business, I realized that my passion was not really growing businesses anymore. It was helping and giving back. And I was sort of thinking about becoming a leadership coach and getting into the coaching space. I think as a fighter pilot and being in the military, you always kind of have a service-minded attitude. There's a deep part of it is in service to the nation and being a protector. That's kind of what you are. You're not in it because you love war or you want to go and shoot things. You're in it because you want to protect people. And I about 5 years ago, I kind of went all in and I started building this business in Australia, and it was doing really well. And just after the second Top Gun movie came out, I was having a conversation with the founder, who's 10 years older than I am. He just sounded a little bit tired, and as a joke, I'm like, "Oh, do you want me to buy the company off you?" And he said, "Yeah, if you want to give me an offer, I'll do it." And I'm like, "Wow." So I gave him an offer, and literally 3 months later, I bought the company. And 6 months after that, I moved to the US, and I live in the US now. This is kind of 2 years later. And you know what translates more than anything from the fighter pilot world into business is understanding that we have blind spots and understanding that we're human. And as a human being, we just make mistakes, whether we try to or not. It's just part of being human is misstepping and being afraid of things and not wanting to take risks. And the Air Force effectively trains that out of you. And it gives you this really simple way of thinking and a way of working as a team that means you can get almost 800, 1,000% more done in a week than the average human being. That's a $15 million program to become a fighter pilot. It's a big ticket. The government spends a lot of money. And I just feel like having that gift and being able to learn and also just being super comfortable that as a pilot, I just didn't know everything. And every mission I went on, I was going to make mistakes. And being in an environment where that was always the most important thing to understand about yourself. And because you fly an airplane by yourself, you're a single seat fighter pilot, you have to be super comfortable with criticism, but also train yourself to be self-critical in a way that's positive. So the mindset that we have, it's not deep diving on everything you did wrong. It's using it as a platform to do something right. And this kind of, we have a 4-step process. It's called ORCA, where you define with the O what your objective is, so what you're trying to achieve. You define with the R the results, what actually happened. And then you get really curious. The C is to define what it was that meant that you had a gap between where you're going in reality. And the A in ORCA is to take action. And not action is in more intention. Action is do something. Just do something different next time.
Mhm.
Something small. And by doing something new, that previous weakness, that previous shortcoming, you effectively create a new habit and you create a new way of working that replaces it. So you don't make the same mistake again. And whilst we make a lot of mistakes in the cockpit, we typically don't make the same mistake twice. Now imagine if you translate that into your life. Let's forget business, but just in your own life, the way that you approach relationships, the way that you have a relationship with money, the way in which you parent a child, everything you do, if you just came at it with a mindset which was, if I'm just intentional here, I can do that a little bit better tomorrow. And you create what we call iterative thinking. And iterative thinking means let's not just think of where we are and where we're going. Let's start thinking backwards. Where are we going? What am I doing? And how do I change what I'm doing to get there faster?
I'm very curious about the name of the company, Afterburner. I kind of went and had a look to understand what is this? Because I was sure it had something to do with fighter jets and insurance.
Yeah. Well, Afterburner in itself is a great metaphor for performance because in a fighter jet, it performs at an okay level just without afterburner. But the great thing about an afterburner is when you need to go fast, when you need more performance, when you need something more, you put the afterburner on in an airplane and it pumps raw fuel into the back and creates a big explosion and doubles your performance. But you can't use it all the time because you run out of gas and you fall out of the sky.
Mhm.
So it's a great metaphor for life in that sometimes to get things done, you got to hit the afterburner. You got to go all in, burn all your energy to get something over the line. But you got to come out of afterburner again and go back to a reasonable pace in life. I feel like today leaders are always an afterburner. They're always working really hard. They're putting all their energy in, and when they get home, they're depleted. They've got no gas in the tank, and they don't have great relationships with their family. Every conversation becomes emotional because you don't have the energy to have a cognitive discussion. It's an emotional discussion. So just understanding that as a in life, sometimes you got to go all in, all energy, but then you've got to come out as well. So being a fighter pilot is really uh, a really great lesson in how you manage your energy states. And
Mhm.
I know even every day my default is to be really busy. My default is to run an afterburner. So I have to bring some intentionality into my thoughts, and I have to say, you know what? I've got to program some time in the day to recharge. I've got to give myself 60 to 90 minutes of me time, of thoughtful time, where I don't just have to answer every single email. And what you find is the things that tend to just never get done, that constantly we were talking about the iterations of a website, right? You were saying your website's amazing, by the way, and that it's on its 20th iteration, right? So think of that as 20 hits of the afterburner. Every time you iterate, you go all in, you go hard, you go all the way to the detail, all the way to the granular, this photo, this metadata, this SEO, and do it properly. And then when it's done, it's done. And we can come back at it in a year and run through it rather than this constant building of a website all the time that's never quite
Right.
done, that doesn't quite have the SEO and the web developer didn't quite put the buffers in and the pictures on sit on top of each other. And I find as a fighter
Yeah.
pilot, when I work with people, I have to help them and say, hey, look, I just need you to schedule 60 solid minutes tomorrow to work on this page for me. Just 60. Can you do that for me? And I really want it to get done all the way to the end. And when it's done, let's book 5 minutes in the calendar. And rather than it be 1 hour a month, let's just do 5 minutes per web page where I can red team it, where I can take it on board, and we can tighten the last little 20% that you don't see because you've got blind spots, but I see because I'm seeing it with fresh eyes. And through that, we start to break down these big jobs that never get done into short, sharp periods of execution where they're done properly the first time.
A lot of what you're talking about to me connects into creating cultures that are high performing. But one of the things that I'm also interested in is freedom cultures. And from your perspective, because I know freedom cultures are built on discipline, even though it sounds like there's a, I'm contradicting myself, and I'd love to hear how you work toward building freedom cultures with your clients, or do you
No,
build?
absolutely. We talk about the three levels of leadership: people leadership, impact leadership, and leading now. So there's the leadership moment, which is second by second, week by week, and quarter by quarter, right? And when we talk about a freedom culture, what we're talking about is the freedom to think, the freedom to connect, the freedom to be present. But if you never get anything done, you never have the freedom. And I don't like the word high performance. I call it dynastic performance because high performance typically uh, has a relationship with dysfunction. Like a lot of high performing people are
Uh,
dysfunctional.
yes, you're right.
They're
Yeah.
filling a void. They're very productive, but they're doing that because they don't want to not be busy. They don't want to not be working. And then some people are just born with extra capacity, right? They just have more. But when we talk about dynastic performance, we're talking about the best of the best. We're talking about the Roger Federers, the Serena Williams, the New England Patriots, the Manchester United, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos. And when you look at these people and these organizations, they approach everything with gross simplicity. Like they create really simple visions. I mean, like Jeff Bezos, when he talks about Amazon, he's like, yep, a lot's going to change. There's going to be things that are new. We're going to get disrupted. But at the end of the day, people want to buy what they want to buy. They want it delivered as quickly as possible, and they want a lot of choice. And no matter if we just do those three things really, really well, we're going to survive. We're going to look at disruption as, is it a way to bring more product at a better price to the buyer faster? No. Well, it's who cares? Forget about it. Oh, there's a competitor that's opened up and they're selling direct to the client through their website. Okay, well, do they appreciate how much bigger our marketplace is? Can we go and enter into a partnership with them? So it's easy to look at everything as, oh my gosh, this is competition. Oh my gosh, this is going to ruin my day. But flip the narrative and say, why is it going to ruin your day? Is it ruining your day because you just weren't expecting it? And we don't, as leaders, have this trigger, which is to say, input, think about it. What does it mean? We just input, have a fight or flight response, and then have a knee-jerk reaction.
Mm.
And one of the things we talk about in with larger organizations is if you've got 40,000 people and something new's happening, someone in the organization probably knows about it. Someone in the organization is probably already dealing with it. So stop and think, right? And what's really powerful about AI, particularly if you've got an enterprise model, is you can put that problem statement in as a prompt and ask who deals with it, and it'll find the person for you. So freedom is the byproduct of performance. If you're not performing, you won't be free.
I actually love that perspective. It's interesting. I've talked to multiple people about freedom and there's so many perspectives. Um, in organizations where freedom is a goal, how can leaders avoid descending into chaos or complacency from your perspective?
Well, you're not going to avoid it because that's the natural state of the world, right? So, first of all, appreciate that fact
Hmm.
because the more you try and fight it, the more frustrated you're going to get. So when we talk about leadership moments, we've got to create moments of clarity. We've got to create moments of execution. And it's in those moments we have a quick win before the chaos sets in. I mean, that's why we iterate. That's why we always have to think about how do I do this slightly better tomorrow? How do I do it a little bit better tomorrow? But you're not going to do it better tomorrow until you get it done today. Because until it's a fixed point in time, and leaders get lost in assumptions, right? Like everyone's just lost in the AI world right now. And what can AI do? What can I? The first thing you got to ask is, well, what do you do? But before you can do something intelligent, before you can do something faster, you've got to define where you're going. What is it? How it serves you to what purpose? So a big part of the ability to have free time to be able to step away, even as a leader, if you want to be free to go and have 2 weeks on a vacation and not have a single phone call, have you set the people up around you for success so you're not needed? And that's a very difficult question for a leader. There is nothing worse for a leader from a primal perspective to feel like you're not needed. But in our business at Afterburner, that's our job. We create ways of thinking and ways of working where leaders don't have to work anymore, where all they have to do is think. And that is a deeply uncomfortable place for a human being to be. That is not what we are engineered to do. We are engineered to be doers because that's how we survived. If we look at pre agrarian culture, there wasn't enough food. When you had to go and get food, it was super dangerous. Whether you're a hunter and gatherer or a hunter, sorry, you had to be able to be busy because you had to go out for a whole day just to find dinner. You had to go out for a whole week just to find dinner. But now that all of those core human needs are met, we're filling the need to be busy with junk, with with a primal desire to be busy rather than be effective.
There's something that you said now in two different ways, two different times in this conversation, and it has to do with simplicity. And I'm curious about because what people are doing, you mentioned Jeff Bezos and people like them who take who come up with very simple approaches, but they're actually simplifying something that's quite complex and multi-layered and on and on and on. And for people who would like to simplify things, and I don't know if this is a fair question, but for people who would like to simplify things and get to that point where they're not looking at all these multiple layers and complexities, but in fact they're able to take them and synthesize them. What would you suggest that they do to be able to do that if they haven't been able to at this point?
Yeah, a simple strategy requires a simple question. And the simple question is, what's the point? Like before we do a whole lot of busy, what's the point of it? Like, what is the deliverable? What is the outcome? What actually happens? Like what do I hold? What does the customer get? And because we're prone to intellectualize and we're prone to be busy, the question that is often forgotten is, why are we doing this? And I've coached probably 450 companies in the last 10 years, and I've run 5 of my own. And even with my own team, the default when everyone gets on a call is this is what I've done. And my answer is I don't care because we're moving forward. Don't tell me what you've done. Tell me where you're going and what problems you've identified, and let's fix them to
Gotcha.
get you there faster, right?
Yeah.
So when we within our organization, which takes its origins from how fighter pilots think, is you never fly a mission without understanding what is the point of the mission? What are the three objectives? Like, what are the three things we're going to deliver as a result of the effort? That is the absolute start point. And if we have a conversation where that's not the start point, we will prompt the other person, hey, what's the point? Like, yep. But and because we're fighter pilots and we kind of have a dark humor, we'll blah 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 blah. Well, whatever be quiet, be quiet. What's the point? And we're allowed to do that because we understand that when we start like that, what you're really saying is, I really value your time, and you value my time. And the reason I know we value each other's time is because you've told me what is the outcome of the effort you're about to ask me to expend.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't happen in business. Never seen it. Not once. In 30 years, 3,854 companies, have we ever seen that behavior as the default behavior?
Really. What is the point? What is the point? That's a good place for us to take a break. And this is your host, Yvette Bethel, and we'll be right back after this message. So, welcome back to Evolve. Our guest for this episode is former fighter pilot, and CEO of Afterburner, Christian Boucousis. Welcome back, Boo.
Happy to be
That
here.
feels,
Happy to be here.
I have to get used to calling you Boo.
It's okay. I take it the right way. I'm not reading anything into that of it.
Okay, okay. So, you mentioned that you've just as we closed before the break, that you've worked with over or about 3,500 organizations. Where do most leadership teams go wrong with communication, especially under pressure?
The biggest mistake people make with communication is they come from behind the mouth rather than in front of the mouth. So they're speaking in terms of what they feel, what they see, how they
Mhm.
perceive the world around, rather than asking those around them, what do you see? What is your perception? And if you look at the way a human makes decisions, a human makes decisions 90 to 95% of the time based on how they perceive their environment, not how the environment is. So leaders communicate from a platform of direction, not a platform of understanding. And to understand what's going on around you, you have to ask the people who are around you. Uh,
Mhm.
and because leaders are always in a hurry, because they've got 10 people they need to speak to 10 times, they don't listen and they don't ask the right questions. And then it becomes frustrating.
Mhm.
And frustration comes from the perspective where a leader expects someone to speak in the way they want to hear rather than try and understand what the person's trying to say.
Right.
And we say as fighter pilots, it's not what you say that's important, it's what's understood. And it's really important when you talk about strategy and execution of plans, and that most leaders do that by themselves and then tell people what to do. Whereas we flip that on its head and we say, if you want someone to do something, they have to be involved in planning it with you. And by doing that, what happens is that person
That's
thinks
right.
about it. They make a commitment to you as to what they're going to do. You don't have to tell them. And the minute a leader tells people what to do, you instantly create a barn door of excuses because the person is doing something someone else wants. They're not doing what they said they would do. So communication is critical, and we create continuity, right? So we create a plan, we communicate within the context of the plan. So if we planned and we answered the question, what's the point? We then speak starting with what's the point, and we problem solve. And then we execute to deliver what's the point. And then when it's all done, we sit back together and say, is what we did what we said we're going to do? And if not, why not? And was it a problem with the plan? Was it a problem with our understanding? Or did we just do it the wrong way? And when you break it down into that simple cycle, then instantly everyone understands the connection between intention, where we're going, translation, the communication, and then the actual doing it part. And that orca conversation is that conversation where we connect tomorrow, the objective, to today, what happened, to yesterday, what did we do to get here? Most companies just do the yesterday, and the yesterday is full of blame. And the yesterday
Yeah.
is all about why did you do it this way? Didn't you listen to me?
Yeah.
What don't you understand? And it's very confronting because it's all about fingers pointing out, not fingers pointing back.
That's right.
And a great tool for a leader is to approach everything as if it was your fault. Did I not plan with everyone together? Did I not give everyone the time? Did I make an emotional decision? Did I let my frustrations throw through? Why am I frustrated? Is it because of them or because I didn't provide the clarity they need? And when you create accountability for everything on a team, two things happen. One, you can fix it because it's you. And two, you make the effort to understand why you feel a certain way. And when you make an effort to understand why you feel a certain way, you create this thing called engagement. You create this breakdown of the walls that exist in any business, whether it's a small business or a large business. And all of a sudden, people start to feel heard. And if you look at some of the core needs of a human being seen and being heard is a fundamental need for a human being in an organization. So, how cool that you can just run through 4 steps
Yeah.
and deliver all this magic just by a super simple structured conversation.
I'd love to hear an example. I know you've worked with Super Bowl winning NFL teams, and I'd love to hear an example of uh, communication from a
Oh yeah,
trans.
Super Bowl winning teams are easy. I'll tell you why the teams don't win Super Bowls. It's because the coach creates the plans. The coach only talks to the quarterback. They tell everyone on the team what to do. It becomes a memorization event in which certain people don't believe in the efficacy of the plan and they don't really pay attention because their subconscious is saying this is a dumb idea and they go and make a mistake. So what did we do? We took the coaches out of the room. The teams built the plays. The teams debriefed by themselves. And then the coaches came back into the rooms and wherever there was a lack of understanding or the glue, the coaches helped resolve it. Same
Interesting.
thing happens in business. Everyone's looking at the top, waiting for the hero to save the day. We call it the Avenger effect. In business, we get people emailing us all the time, and they said, "Hey, I've been trying to get this deal done with one of our clients. It's been stuck for 2 years. I sat down, I debriefed with them. I asked them, rather than ask them what their problems were, I asked them, hey, where are you trying to go with this? Like, what does good look like to you? What's the point of working with us? And the minute they connected what's the point to what we were providing, boom, $26 million deal closed. Happens all the time. Leaders come up to me and they go, Boo, you've engineered me out of a job. I don't feel needed anymore. And I'm like, perfect. You've done what you're meant to do as a leader. You've delegated everything. You've empowered everyone. Now your job is to sit and think and look at the future and do what your job is. And a leader's job is to take a group of people into a future that doesn't exist yet. But we get caught in management mode, which is I need to manage and tell people what to do today based on what we know, rather than give myself the freedom to free up the very intellectual structures of my mind to
Hmm.
keep everyone safe as we move into the future.
Hmm. In your material that I read before this interview, you talk about alignment as a performance multiplier. What does real alignment look like, and how do you create it without stifling individual initiative?
Well, the first thing is you don't need initiative to figure out how to tie your shoelaces. Okay. And a lot of businesses bring high powered intellectual thought to basic routine ideas. When we do our keynote on stage, we ask the audience who's had to deal with the same problem in the organization more than once, and everyone raised their hands. And we'll say, who's had to deal with an inefficiency in an organization for more than a year? Half the room. And we'll ask who in the room has dealt with the same problem for the entire tenure of their employment, and they raise their hand. That is strategic misalignment. Okay. Strategic alignment means wherever the friction is in an organization, we've got to get it out of the way. And a simple analogy is if you had a rowboat and everyone was facing each other rather than facing the same way, like that's gross strategic misalignment, the boat stays still. Uh,
That's a
and
good example.
when people are so focused on their job, they don't know where they're going. They don't know what the destination looks like. And what happens is if you're running a team of 10 people and they're not aligned to the same what's the point, then you're going to get duplication of effort. You're going to get people that are using their intellectual freedom to figure out 3 ways to do something that only needs 1 way. And you start to have a clash of opinions rather than an alignment of efforts. So alignment, that's the whole point of planning. I mean, this is what people don't understand around planning. Planning is not something you do once a year to build your strategic plan.
Right.
It's what you do every day. And if you think of planning simply as an alignment of thoughts, that's what it is, an alignment of ideas. And then we translate thoughts and ideas into clarity around objectives, like who does what by when, and
Mhm.
how do we know what it looks like when it's finished. Then everyone's got the freedom to do it their way. Someone might want to do it at 11 o'clock at night. Someone else might want to do it at 6 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't care less. As long as it's done by Friday, that's the most important thing. As long as we create 15-minute touch points through the week where we do come together and we do ask conversations which are, oh, I'm stuck here. This is what I need to move forward. Then all of a sudden, oh no, by the way, strategic alignment isn't something you do inside your organization. Strategic alignment is really important for your clients and customers as well. Because if you're not aligned with where they're going and you're providing a service, what are you doing? What are you doing if you're not enabling them to reach their objective? And I had one particular case study where I was working in an organization of 248,000 people, and most of their services were outsourced. Their technology provider, their databases, everything was outsourced. And they were constantly complaining about the quality of the service they were getting delivered. And I said, apart from the proposal stage, apart from the moment in which you binded yourself in a contract, how often do you meet with these people? We every quarter we have to meet and sit down. I said, okay, everyone else on your team that executes internally, how often do you meet them? Every week. So why are we not meeting the human beings in that contract every week?
That's right.
Ah, it's a good point. Just because they're under contract doesn't mean they're not. Contracts are commercial, execution is people. So everyone is on the team. So strategic alignment means we're all aligned around a common destination.
Mhm.
That's all we need to do. The actions, well, if it's routine, if I'm working at a checkout, I just need to know that every shopper that comes through the checkout, all 4,800 a day, that checkout experience is the same every time. Because I don't know about you, when you switch supermarkets, and the next supermarket has a different way of checking out. You spend the first 5 minutes like, so it's alignment around destinations,
Right.
alignment around the routine things we do every day, so we don't have to think about it, because that's where freedom comes from.
Mhm.
Freedom. I use the hire car analogy. I always get the same hire car all the time, exactly the same vehicle. Because if I don't, it takes me 10 minutes to figure out how to turn on Apple CarPlay. If it's electric versus petrol, I don't even know whether I've turned it on. And if I look at the fact that I have to use, in an average month, 8 hire cars, and if that's 8 lots of 10 minutes, that's 80 minutes a week I'm wasting because I'm not aligned. My, I
Right.
have this. I have 6 of these blue jackets, 6 of these white shirts. I have the same pair of shorts, the same shoes. Everything is exactly the same. Why? Because I don't have to go and spend 2 hours in a mall. Okay, I don't have to go and break in a new pair of shoes because they don't fit just how I like them. And when you start to look at everything in life, in business, that way, every little 10 minutes here and there adds up.
From your perspective, there's a theme of being future focused in a lot of your comments. And which competencies will be more valuable, you think, in the future based on your approach?
Wisdom,
Sure.
insight.
Yeah, I
It's about being absolutely clear as to where you're going, because the work is going to be done by machines. And if you don't, people talk about AI, or it hallucinates, it gives me garbage. And it's like, well, is it hallucinating, or did you just not direct it very well? Did you say, I need a sales strategy to increase sales 5%? Or did you say, this is my company, this is my product, here's my data, this is what I've done over the last 10 years, this is where our trends are, this is the buy market, I want you to use this website for best practice, and I want you to access our knowledge base, I want you to review our sales scripts, and I want you to give me a strategy to increase sales by 5%. Then it's going to give you value. And again, it goes back to the detail, right? Like, we think generically as human beings. We think simply and we do complex. And that's why we create what we call the impact layer, because the impact layer is where you take intention and generic thought and translate it into granular action. And that's why we built the flawless execution model, because if you use it every day, that's what happens. You go from intentional planning to deliberate planning.
Mm,
You go from uh, directive communication to inquiry-based understanding. You
mhm.
go from trying to do everything all day to set periods of execution where you get things done. And then you reflect as well to make sure what you're doing is taking you to where you need to go.
Ah,
I want to go
oh,
back to freedom because as we're talking, I just want to be clear. From our perspective, freedom isn't the freedom to do whatever you want. That's not freedom. That's actually chaos. Freedom is the time to do whatever you want. And whatever you want doesn't mean work. Whatever you want should be doing an oil painting, spending an extra hour with your kids. It should be something that you want to do for yourself. And I think where we got a little bit lost during the woke period was everyone can do whatever you want to get the job done. And
mm,
we worked during that period, and my goodness, was it chaotic. And what did it create? More stress, more frustration, more training on how to have difficult conversations because you're having difficult conversations about things that didn't need to be difficult.
that's right.
So freedom is discipline. Freedom is simplicity. Freedom is the minimum amount of effort a human being can expend to get the maximum amount of impact. That's freedom.
I want you to go back to wisdom, though, because we don't talk about it enough in the context of business. And from your perspective, how does an organization bring that in?
So I look at information at three levels. There's information, which is noise, and we consume, an iPhone full of information every single day, 128 gigabytes, the same amount that our grandparents consumed in their entire life. So that's information. Information has no value. Knowledge is converting that information into something that you can use as an individual.
Yeah,
Wisdom is knowledge that you pass on to give insight to someone else.
gotcha.
So when we're in the wisdom game, we cannot be wise unless we understand the needs of others. We can be wise in terms of I've made this mistake before, but that was a different world. That was a different set of rules. Like that's not really wisdom. That's just experience. That's different. Uh,
Mhm.
so to be a wise, insightful leader, you have to master the art of understanding others and understanding not what they need, because often, people don't know what they need, but knowing where they want to go. And
Mhm.
one of the practices we have and why we can pretty much assess a team's performance in 10 seconds is the first question we ask is, what's the point of this team? We're the legal team. Yep, that's what you are. But what's the point? Why do you exist? And all of a sudden, it starts to get uncomfortable. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, we update, and everyone's always telling you the point of their existence, and they're explaining it in the work that they do.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's wisdom is comprehending the outcome of the work that you do.
Mhm.
It's understanding when to pause. It's understanding when not to react. It's understanding that the world is a fairly slow and deliberate pace, and you're the one that's introducing chaos. You are the one that due to a lack of understanding, a lack of comprehension, a lack of thoughtfulness, are creating a whole bunch of work that you don't need to. Statistically, 10 years ago, the amount of unproductive work in a company was around 30 to 35%. Today, it's 65 to 67% of the work done in an organization is ineffective. Of that 67%, 25% actually pushes the company backwards. It's actually counterproductive. So wisdom requires space for thought. It requires a mindset that's always led by intention. And through that wisdom, you will create the frameworks, the rhythm, and the actions that will drive you to your destination.
For leaders listening to you about leadership, and they may be interested in, maybe adopting some of the ideas that you shared. what advice or wisdom would you leave with them as a kind of outgoing comment? Uh, any kind of advice that
Yeah.
you would.
Stop. Okay. Input, stop. Think. What's the point? And who's the person in your organization that already does it? And if they don't, sit down and come up with a plan to solve it together. But the simple advice I give to leaders: don't worry about your personality. Don't worry about who you are. Don't worry about your imposter syndrome. Don't try and be a leader that you're not. You will be a good leader if you stop and think.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'd like to thank you, Boo, for joining us for this episode, Cultivating Freedom Cultures and Flex processes. We didn't dig into that this time, but in an increasingly complex environment, this is a powerful path to organizational longevity, and your insights and wisdom will certainly support leaders in our audience with thinking about their cultures and how they do what they do. So before we sign off, Boo, please tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Either come to afterburner.com if you're looking for organizational systems, a leadership model, or you can find me at callmeboo.com. And I know you're uncomfortable with that, Yvette, but anyone can call me Boo.
This has been Yvette Bethel and Christian Boucousis. And we'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us at Evolve, Reinventing Leadership, Building Freedom Cultures.